All right, guys, today we are going to break down the bill H.R. 4117, the Fuel Emissions Freedom Act. This is a bill that's stirring debate in Washington, and it could dramatically reshape emissions rules for heavy-duty semi-trucks. I've been doing some reporting on this a little bit. We're going to watch this as it moves forward. We're all just very curious on what it is that's going to happen here for the trucking industry, how it's going to benefit the trucking industry, and any negatives as well. I told you I was going to follow this sharply, and here's another report that I want to get out to you guys. I'm just going to read a couple of things here. You know, this bill introduced by Representative Roger Williams, he's a Republican from Texas, on June 24, 2025. It was referred to the House Energy and Commerce Committee, aims to completely repeal federal motor vehicle emission and fuel standards and block both federal and state level regulations, including those from California under the Clean Air Act. So we're really excited about this. You know, the EPA has made some really good announcements. We've talked about it a little bit, and I want to dig into this article 4117 and what it means to our trucking industry and kind of break it down on how some of this works. But first, I'm going to show you a clip from the EPA.
As it relates to greenhouse gas emission standards on light duty, medium duty, and heavy duty, it doesn't reset anything. It eliminates everything. This proposed rule is a proposal to eliminate the endangerment finding, to eliminate greenhouse gas standards, all the regulations that came out, including the electric vehicle mandates, all of the greenhouse gas standards.
All right. Well, that sounds very exciting, very aggressive. Like I said before, that they're really sounding aggressive with what it is that they're proposing here and the verbiage that they're using. It has cost the industry $1 trillion in the past 15 years, this regulatory pinch that we have gotten ourselves into these last 15 years. Just think about that. That's $1 trillion that has been spent engineering these devices since 2009, implementing them on the trucks. And also, you know, what it costs for us as the end users to have to deal with these regulations. So that's $1 trillion in 15 years. That's $54 billion annually that this regulation has been costing us. When I say us, I mean the transportation companies, the trucking industry, the truck manufacturers, the truck drivers, the truck dealers, everyone. That's our money. And remember, in 2009, when this passed, buying brand new trucks in 2009 and trying to operate them with these DPF filters on them at the time, DPF filters. And then just use this scenario as a perspective. A man in 2012 bought a 2012 Peterbilt 386 with a PACCAR motor in it with DPF filters on it. And that Peterbilt 386 breaks down and it goes to the shop. The shop tells him, they do a check and advise, and they tell him that it's going to cost $2,500 for us to look into this truck and see what's going on with this after treatment. We need approval for this $2,500. This owner operator or driver says, yes, go ahead and break into it for the $2,500. He goes ahead and gives them his card for that $2,500. They begin work on it. Then they give him a call back and they say, okay, that $2,500 didn't fix it. We're going to need another $3,500 to diagnose further, and that should fix it. He gets a little upset and says, okay, here's another $3,500. They use up that $3,500 and they call back and say, we need another $4,500. This time we're going to be able to fix it. Next thing you know, that driver with that 2012 Peterbilt 386 with a new PACCAR motor in it with this crappy DPF system that doesn't work on it is now in debt to this shop for $26,000. And guess what? The problem is still not fixed. Mind you, you can rip that entire system out and put it back in a brand new system for $15,000. Well, they just got him for $26,000. That is part of the $1 trillion that this regulation has cost us. That's what it looks like times 1 million customers. The money that it cost for the manufacturers to figure out engineering because they were forced by California and forced these engineers to put these devices on these trucks Obama forced us to do this all in the name of clean air. And I understand that, $1 trillion, $54 billion annually. Now take this perspective. If we spent $1 trillion as consumers, as manufacturers, as everyone in the trucking industry, if we spent $1 trillion, $54 billion annually in 15 years on this regulation, imagine what it's going to do when you deregulate. Imagine how much more money is going to be in all of these customers and end users and manufacturers' pockets now that it's been deregulated. So think about this, and this is where this is just gorgeous and this is beautiful. That means we're going to save $1 trillion in the next 15 years if we can get this thing to stick for 15 years. That means everyone is going to be healthy again. That means everyone is going to thrive again. That means this trucking industry is going to be great again. Make trucking great again. Well, it looks like Trump is really doing it. And then what we need, apparently, I think, is if Trump is in office for 4 years, and I hear everybody making comments, well, a Democrat comes in office, they're just going to put it all back and make this happen again. Well, they have it in this legislation that that's not going to be possible. And the other thing you got to think about is, what if J.D. Vance is elected as president after Trump? So then you got 4 years and then 8 years after that of somebody that's not going to meddle with it. That's 12 years. So how much more money is everyone going to be able to make now in the next 12 years if that was to happen? So that's kind of the good side of it. That's kind of a good perspective that we can look at for this. So some things that this HR 4117 does, let's break it down a little bit. It will cause repeals. Repeals of Section 202 of the Clean Air Act, eliminating all federal emissions regulations. It also removes Section 209. If they can remove Section 209, that will strip away all the state waivers, and that will keep California from being able to set their own standards in the future. The next thing it does is repeals fuel economy mandates under Title 49. That's Sections 32902 and 32918. It also nullifies any existing federal or state emission guidelines and makes future ones illegal. Okay, now listen to that. 4117, HR 4117, and makes future ones illegal. Nullifies any existing federal or state emissions guidelines and makes future ones illegal. That's key. So how it benefits semi-trucks and anyone who drives, for semi-trucks, this means that tailpipe emission standards, which currently limit pollutants like NOx and particulate matter, would vanish. Essentially, any diesel delete aftermarket modification, like removing DPF, DEF, or EGR systems, could become legal. Some of you guys might know that my son just got out of the military. He was a wheeled mechanic for the U.S. Army, and he let me know of a lot of the vehicles that come into his shop there, like a 2019 Ford F-350 rolls in the shop, and you pop the hood and you can see the cap on it. It has been deleted from the factory. Now you look at all their semi trucks and their heavy duty trucks, their medium duty trucks in the Army, in the Air Force, Armed Forces, any of those apparatuses, and those vehicles are manufactured brand new without after treatment systems in them, just completely deleted altogether. Okay, well, let's look at that. Okay, government, why is it that your trucks are allowed to be deleted and us end users and civilians have to have after treatment systems on our vehicles, government? Well, we're saving lives and we're protecting the country. Our work is very important, and we can't have these vehicles break down in the time of need while saving lives. Or at battle. Oh, okay. So you don't need them breaking down. What, is there a problem with these things or something? Are you scared that you're going to risk lives because of these things? Oh, yes, we are. Oh, wait, hold on. So you're able to have your equipment deleted because it's so important. So you mean to tell me that delivering groceries to the grocery store so humans in America can survive is not important? Oh, okay. So you're more important than we are. So if they're taking the stance that we don't have to have these after treatment systems because it saves lives, well, you know what? We need to take the same stance. When COVID was happening, you guys were depending on us truckers and the trucking industry to deliver your groceries. And I tell you what, if you don't want your government to fall, if you don't want your government to be overthrown, or you don't want it to be broken down and another government formed, you better make sure you take care of the trucking industry so that this government doesn't fall. Because I tell you what, if you have another pandemic like before, and that supply chain gets cut off, and these Americans cannot get groceries to the stores any longer, you're going to have a problem on your hands, government. So anyways, that's just my opinion on that. They're not any better than us, and we should not have to have these emission standards on our vehicles either, because we're essential as well. It's very important for us to be able to get groceries to the grocery stores so that America can survive. So the impact on the trucking industry that we can look at with this, manufacturers and fleets, there will be lower compliance costs, simpler regulations, especially appealing for small, medium businesses that struggle with multiple standards. With aftermarket shops, that'll be a very big boost that these aftermarket shops will feel and will see. Without the emissions requirements, diesel delete services and performance modifications could surge. So if this thing passes, a lot of these mechanic shops will now start to be able to make money off of deleting trucks. And I know that we had one follower make a comment and say something the other day, about the used truck market, all these used trucks for the last 15 years that do have these emission standards on them, emission controls on them. If they manufacture new trucks and they don't put them on the new trucks any longer, and that's been deleted, and we don't have to have these after treatment systems on the new trucks, then that'll make all these used trucks worthless in the market. Well, yeah, the bottom could fall out of the used truck market because nobody will want to buy any of these trucks that have after treatment. That's 15 years worth of trucks that will just be worthless. But if you're a fleet and you own 20 trucks, now it's legal for you to have these trucks deleted, and you can make them run more efficient. Then the small aftermarket shops are going to be sitting there making money off of deletes all day long, and it's going to be completely legal. So it would behoove you as a company that runs trucks to go into a shop and have them deleted. So that's one way that it may keep the used truck market still to be strong. But environmental and public health concerns, without testing, smog checks, or tailpipe limits, air quality could decline, especially in urban areas and along freight corridors. I know that some followers have been making comments about Denver, Colorado, with the mountains, and how the smog kind of gets collected in Denver and all that kind of. Do you have to look at that? That could go up. So what's next on the legislative outlook? At this stage, HR 4117 is just introduced. Okay, it must pass through the committee. Then both chambers of Congress before heading to the president. Its real world effects are speculative, but the implications for emissions regulation or lack thereof are already huge. So in short, HR 4117 proposes on an all-out rollback of fuel and emissions standards, potentially legalizing diesel deletes and removing smog checks under the banner of cutting regulatory burden and lowering costs. But that comes with environmental trade-offs. As it moves forward, this bill could fundamentally reshape regulation in the trucking world. So all I know is I'm very excited about this. I'm going to keep reporting on it here and there from my home office. I hope you guys like this stuff. Hit all my buttons if you do. Follow us if you like. And if you don't like me, just keep swiping. Anyhow, you guys have a good day.